Hi everyone. Today I am painting these really fun little cards. I've shared these with you before and I believe I even sent a few of you a link. I do these quite often. They're a little 4x6 card, and they fold in the middle here, so I will be just painting on the one side. These are made by Strathmore and they're a cold press watercolor, 140 pounds, so 300 GM. And they come in a box of 100 with 100 envelopes, and I use them quite often. They're fun to paint and send out. And let's see, here is the box. I will, excuse me, list it in the description with a link if you'd like to play with them. I believe they also have smaller boxes, so you don't have to buy all 100, and I will check that out for you. I buy them in quantities of 100 because I go through them quite fast. Okay. Today I'm going to be doing a little wildflower type of look. I sketched it out here, and I'm going to be doing this in the corner here of the card. I might go ahead, the card folds right here, and I might go ahead a lot of times and I'll continue it so it kind of flows down the back of the card when it's folded. We'll see, kind of go with the free flow here of what I want to add in. This is the pre-sketch that I did though, so I added in some little eucalyptus and little little wildflowers, the little cone flowers. I put here a couple poppies, so we'll see how it goes, and then lots of leaves and color. So we'll see how it goes. I want to create my color palette, and the colors I'll be using will be that olive and sap green. There you go. And then I'm going to be using some of that turquoise, Winsor Newton turquoise, for some of these little wildflowers. And I'll be using some red for the poppies. So this is going to be a variety of colors. Since they're wildflowers, I thought we could get a little bit more varied with the colors. I'll use this cad yellow and maybe a little bit of cad orange. Here's the cad orange and the cad yellow, and some mixes of those two together. For another green, I'll probably use that gold green or green gold by Winsor Newton. I really like that one. Just to add in some dark areas of the green. Maybe some purple for some of the violets I thought I'd add in. And the eucalyptus, I will do a combination of the blue and the green here. And I think that's about it. I might use a tiny bit of this ultramarine blue, we'll see. I don't want to get too many colors here, and a lot of these will be just small little dabs and little wildflowers here and there. Let's see how it plays out. And then basically, I think today the strokes we'll be using, the brush strokes, will be that compound stroke, point, press, like that for the leaves, and remembering to vary your values. So you've got some dark values, some light values in your leaves. That way you get this interest. With the red, you could definitely go light and dark. Here's a darker value of that red. And you can see that difference there. Play with that on yours as well. I always warm up with my colors and I will spread them out and lighten them. For instance, this blue, there you go. So here's the dark value of that blue and then the lightest value just by adding more water to it. And I think that's the majority of the colors I will be using today. If I use something else, I will definitely add it into this little swatch kit that I'll put together for you. And in the swatch kit that I'm selling, thank you so much. I'm so glad they seem to be helpful for you. That's really great. I am going to include the little card here that you're going to see me paint. I will include my sketch. And as well with these cards, when you purchase them on Amazon, you get these really pretty envelopes. They have this really nice rough edge, which I love, and they've got a real nice texture to them. And you will get all of this in the kit. You'll get the card, the envelope, the little swatches with the colors. I write the colors on there. And you will also get my sketch here. Okay? And I think that's a good reference for you. I will add a few more strokes on here. Actually, one of them for that poppy will be using the side of your brush, starting with the tip, and then pushing down, spreading out. And that makes really a perfect little poppy there, which I love. So you're using the side of your brush. Oop, didn't mean to do that. You're using the side of your brush like that. Just practice that. A lot of times I will make the front leaf of my poppy like this, so that way it looks like you're just seeing the front of the poppy leaf and it's folded over. You're seeing the folded over part. And then in the middle, of course, of my poppies, I always use this Payne's Gray, which I'll put that color on here as well. And again, I love the Payne's Gray because it isn't a real harsh black. It's got a little blue in it. So I will go into my poppy like that. Okay? And this is that Payne's Gray. I know it looks black on here. If you have this color though, you'll notice it's got a lot of blue in it, which I really love. And I think the only other brush stroke I will use will be that dabbing that you see me do, because some of these wildflowers are just little buds a lot of times. And they look like that. I might drag them out a little bit and make them a little bit longer, or maybe 3 of them, something like that. And I may do some like this. Let's just see where we go. I kind of like that. And then adding in this green in between so it spreads. See how that spread? I really like that look. And I think I'll probably use that. Same with these, just connecting all of these. I think that's really pretty. I like adding those. And then of course the poppy will have this green stem. So these are some of the little practices that we'll do. Maybe even add in a bud. Let's see where we go with this. We'll kind of see what we need. Okay. Now, sometimes I would, when I've painted these cards, if you're going to use a lot of water, which I don't believe we'll be doing in this piece because we're kind of doing these individual stems and flowers. If I was doing something that was going to require a lot of water and very washy wet in wet techniques, what I would do here is just take some masking tape or painter's tape and go around and tape the edges. Because what'll happen is this is actually good paper. It's Strathmore and it's 140 pound, cold pressed. Although what I have noticed is if I use a lot of water, it will kind of warp a little bit. That isn't a problem. Afterwards, I can show you how to flatten it out. But while you're painting, it can be a little bit troublesome. Today, I'm not going to do that because I'm not using a lot of washy areas. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. I'm just going to be referencing my little drawing here, which is actually bigger than this. And I'm not sure if I will continue down the back of the card, but let's go ahead and start placing some of these little stems. Going into my green here, and I really like this dark green too that I've been using. And we're just going to start laying in some of these little wispy leaves. I'm going to have it kind of fanning out from this corner. I love that look on cards. I've done that a lot and I think it's really pretty. Let's use the tip of our brush, and I'm using my Princeton number 8 round. This is the Neptune series. You see me use the Velvet Touch a lot, which is not real different. It's got that velvety feel. Basically the same brush. Go in with the point of your brush. Make sure you've got that tea-like consistency. We can always go darker. You can't go lighter. And let's just lay down our first brush. Very, very light touch. Like that, okay? And then maybe just start setting some of the groundwork for what we want. Getting an idea of where some of these might be. Something like that. And I'm going to go ahead and add in some of these little leaves that I've got here. They're running off the page a little bit, just like that. Okay, might add a little bit of this dark green in there. And just like that. I love when they run off the page a bit. I'm also going to do a little cone flower up at the top here. I had so much fun sharing that with you yesterday. And then let's do a little wildflower right here. Let me go into my yellow. I'm letting my palette run out a little bit of these paints because I'm planning on trying out a different palette that I bought a while back, and I want to give it a try. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make these little dots because I want to create the feeling of a dandelion. So just using the tip, I'm going to make a few of those here. And then while it's wet, I want to go in and create the green stems. And I want to do it while it's wet because I want the green to bleed into the yellow dandelions. Picking up some of my green I already created here and going in. And feel free to use a number 4 round if this brush you can't quite get that thin line. That's perfectly fine. I'm used to doing it with this, so it works for me. But if you like, you can get a number 2 or 4 and use that. Just bringing in these little lines like that. This is really some little detail work, which I don't normally do, as you might know. But I think here it works well. Just like that. Okay, and these are good fillers. Once we get going here, if we find we've got some little empty spaces, we can always add in some more of those. I think right here, I'm going to make that into a little lavender, some purple. Let me go ahead and pick up my purple here. Again, keep it a lighter value and always gently tapping the brush on the side to get rid of, you see how much water this picks up, and when I tap, it gets rid of a lot of that water. You don't want it too watery. And then let's just go in here and create some of these little purple buds, just like that. As that dries, I might go in with some darker purple and just tap in to get a little bit of interest. You could also use that turquoise blue here, or even your ultramarine blue. And I quite like this. And then I'm going to, when that dries a little bit, I'm going to go into it with some green, because I noticed my green lavender here a lot of times will have a stalk coming out of the top like that, and then just joining that line. I want to get that blend like that. Okay, there we go. Now I notice those lavenders, they have some little, I don't know if these would be called sepals, but they do come out of the bottom there. Okay, I'm quite happy with that. I will start going in once I get some of these flowers and just adding in some leaves, and they will be a little bit of a filler. And so I want to wait until I'm kind of done with the flowers, and then we can always go back in and fill. I'm going to put an orange little 5-petal or 4-petal flower right here. I think that would be fun. And I'm going to do that by basically dabbing like that. Always pointing the tip towards the center of the flower. There we go. Maybe put one of those right here, a little bit smaller. Or we could even leave that one on its side. That works quite well too. And I think that's really fun. I'm actually going to put another one right here, just a little bit smaller. So all I'm doing is barely pressing down with the tip. I just refer to it as dabs. And there you go. Once that dries a little bit, I'm going to go in with my brush, the tip, and just create. I can do the stems right now, but be a little careful. Just make sure you don't have too much water. You want to be tapping off the edge like that. And then if you still feel you have too much, you can always tap into your paper towel. So let's just create that. That was perfect. It bled a little, which is what I wanted it to do. Keeping in mind, if you have too much water, it's just going to turn into a big muddy mess. Okay, let me take a look at my sketch here and see what we want to do next. I have some eucalyptus, which now I'm not sure if I will put that in there or not, and that's sometimes what happens. And that's why I go a little bit organic on these just to see what I might want. I will add in, I think right here, some little tiny red flowers, or let's go with pink. Let's go with pink here. Just rinsing my brush, scraping it, and tapping it off and picking up some of this Quin Magenta, like that. You know what, actually, I think, yeah, let's use the Quin Magenta. I was going to use red, but I really, as you know, like that Quin Magenta. And let's just do some little, almost freesia style, like that. Just some little dabs here and there. I think that's really pretty. Now what I might want to do is just add some more here, because otherwise what could happen is your eye just gets stuck over here because of that color. If you spread it around a little bit, it helps. Now I'll wash my brush, dab it off, and see there, if I rub hard enough, it's got that pink in it. Make sure that you're really washing your brush and then using that rinse as well. Okay, let's go in here now, and I'm going to add some petals now down here. I'm going to go into my green, my sap and my olive green. Again, I'm just picking it up and then tapping lightly. Now this isn't bad at all. I've got just the right amount of water there. And I'm going to go in and just create something to kind of draw the eye this way. Go in and maybe like that. I really like that. And right here, what I'm doing for these little leaves is just using the point, drawing a little bit of a stem, and then pressing down. That's it. You want to make a few coming out like this. Just point. There we go. Point. There we go. And this kind of draws your eye. As I'm sitting here painting, I'm watching two squirrels running around my backyard playing. It's so cute. They're chasing each other through my lawn, and one of them just picked a loquat off my tree and is eating it. Oh, goodness. So using the tip of my brush and then press down to get that leaf. Press down. Now I'm going to leave a little space in here, and I'm doing that so I can add some darker and lighter leaves, darker value. Point, point, press, point, press, point, press. Just make these very playful, just like that. Washing my brush, rinsing it, and then gently scraping it and just tapping. That paint that you see coming off isn't actually in my brush. It's on the ferrule of my brush. The brush is actually relatively clean. Okay, let's go in here, and I think I'm going to add a couple little fun little blue flowers. Maybe right here, like that, and we'll put one there. Maybe one right here. I think I'm going to put a cone flower there. I just created those little stems. Now I'm going to go into that blue, that turquoisey blue. tapping off the excess very lightly. You don't have to scrape too hard. You want some wetness there. And then let's just go in and create these little, just making little dabs, like a little tiny cluster of wildflowers here, just like that. I'm going to do another one right here, just picking up a little bit more paint. You're just playing here, just like that. Okay, now again, I don't want just the blue to be right there. I'm going to go in here and maybe put a little bit of that here. Otherwise, your eye would get a little bit stuck there. We don't want that. Okay. There's kind of this flow. Maybe another one here. Something like that. Just carrying that blue a little bit throughout. All right, so you've kind of got this curvy motion with the blue. Okay. Now let's just take a look at this and see what we might want to do. I feel like, same within my sketch, I had some flowers here coming out of the very bottom. I think I'm going to do that. And I'm thinking I'm going to use that purple to kind of carry it down over here. That feels right to me. Pointing towards, I'm going to make it look like part of this flower is popping out of the bottom. So let's just dab, 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 like that. And then maybe another one here. Dab, dab. Always pointing my brush towards the center of the flower, like that. And I think the cone flower, I'm going to also use purple just to bring the eye up here towards the top. Let's do our, if you watched my cone flower tutorial, I used the burnt sienna for the little middle part, kind of that knob. And I'm going to start with that here, just like that. Okay. I might darken that up just a tiny bit with some of that black, like so. You would do very well on a painting of this size using that smaller brush. Probably a 2 would be really nice. I don't happen to have one here on my desk, because it would give you a much smaller tip. I'm kind of used to using this and getting that small detail work, so I'm able to do it. But I feel like it would be a help for you if you had the smaller brush. And then I'm going to go in with that purple and create the little petals for that cone flower, using my point and then coming out like this. Point, point, like that. I like that. And you can see how because I'm carrying that purple throughout, it keeps your eye moving. And that's what we want. We didn't want it to get just stuck down here where this other purple is. When that dries just a bit, I'll go in and create a little petal. I think what I want to do now is create some leaves in here with a very light value of the green, which just means a lot of water and less paint. and that will create that very light value. And then just go in and do some leaves. There we go. Something like that. I'm also going to go in and create some darker leaves because we want that interest of dark and light values. Something like that. I'm thinking here, there we go. I'm going to go in here and create a couple darker values of those leaves. To do that, I pick up a lot more paint, less water, just like that. Might even add in some of that. And let's create a couple dark leaves here and see what happens. There we go. See how interesting that is? There we go. Really pretty. And carrying those out in other places so it's pulling your eye. Just like that. See how fun that is? And then you've also got these lighter values. I'm going to go into the center of these flowers now that they dried and add in little tiny dots in the middle, and I'm going to use that Payne's Gray and just create some tiny dots like that. Just brings a little tiny bit of detail. I'm not a detailed person, but I want to draw some attention to some of that. Might put some in here too, in these little purple ones. Like so. There we go. And then we need that stem for our coneflower we did over there. Just like that. I feel like I want to add some lighter colored leaves over here. Let's go ahead and do that by washing our brush and using a very light value of that green. You want to use a lot of water in there. And creating some leaves coming out here. Something like that. Not pretty. There we go. Now there are times when I've carried this over to the other side of the card. I don't think I'm going to do that this time, but that can be really pretty too. And I think I'm pretty well done here. I think that's fun. And I'm pretty happy with that. You could keep going, of course, forever, really. Something like that, just adding in more and more of these little leaves. But I think I'm good with that. I might even want to carry some of those little orange flowers and maybe put one here. So it's kind of a focal point right now, which is great. I'm going to add maybe one more here. I feel like I need that orange to carry over. So let's just do that. Using the tip of my brush like that. So it kind of carries down. Maybe one there. Maybe one there. something like that. So it spreads it around a little bit. Okay, I think that's good enough. I don't want to go too much more and get too busy. I might go into these little blue flowers and add in a darker value of that blue just to create some more interest. So this is that turquoise, Winsor Newton, always Winsor Newton. And maybe tap in with some darker versions of that just for some interest. Just play with that a little bit. Anytime you feel your painting is flat, that's typically what it needs. It needs some different values. Okay? And there you go. I will put this on Etsy, and again, you will get the little swatch here. We didn't end up doing the poppy. I didn't feel we needed that. We did do a lot of these, and you will get the little envelope that comes with it and the sketch. And I hope you give this a try. I think it's fun. You could even go in here with some splatterings if you want. I feel it's got a lot going on, so I don't know if I would do the splatters. But that's up to you and how your painting looks when you're done with it. Okay, so have fun and happy painting, everyone. Thank you.